and welcome to episode 53 of Did You Bring the Hummus podcast. I'm Kimberly, your host, and I'm super excited to be here with you today. Did You Bring the Hummus is a podcast to help you go vegan. This season, I'm sharing new episodes every Monday, discussing all things vegan. Most importantly, we'll talk about how to embrace this meaningful decision with fervor and fun. Episodes post every Monday on your favorite podcast app. Before we get started, I have one very important question for you. Did you bring the hummus? Who wants to beta test a 4-week group program with me? I know what I needed when I was exploring veganism, but what is it that you need? Send me an email at didyoubringthehummus@gmail.com with I'm in the subject line. In the email itself, just let me know which time zone you're in. I'll reach out with the details to all those who sent an email by 11:59 Eastern on Monday, July 3rd. Once you have the details, you can decide if you want to participate. Today, I am joined by cookbook author Nisha Melvani. Of Indian origin, born in Jamaica, and educated in England and Canada, Nisha has grown up with a myriad of cultures and ingredients around her. A graduate of the Natural Gourmet Institute, as well as Columbia University's master's program in nutrition education, and a registered dietitian nutritionist, Nisha feels strongly that we can all eat healthier while maintaining a budget. She runs the Cooking for Peanuts Instagram feed, a recipe blog at cookingforpeanuts.com, and lives in New York City with her 3 children. You'll hear me wax a bit poetic about Nisha's cookbook, Practically Vegan. And that's before I'd even gotten a chance to try any of the recipes. I had just read through the introduction section. I can't even imagine the love fest that would have been had if I had made some recipes ahead of our chat. I have, however, since made recipes, so head on over to my Instagram to see photos of sticky sesame tofu, which is definitely in the top 3 tofu recipes I've ever made. JP and I have a system in my cookbooks, so we know which recipes we love, which recipes were good enough, and which ones to never make again. Before this recipe, the loved ones received 2 check marks, backwards by the way, because I'm a lefty. This recipe, sticky sesame tofu, has 3 check marks. I also made the caramelized onion and tofu sandwich as promised, which was also amazing, and you'll find photos of that one too. Nisha shares the interesting way her dad eats a banana, some guidance on gaining confidence in the kitchen, getting kids to eat their veggies, cats, and of course, hummus. Hey Nisha, thanks so much for joining me today.
Hi, I'm very excited to be here.
I am so excited to talk to you. As we always do on Did You Bring the Hummus, I'd love to start with your vegan journey. So tell us how you got here.
So I was born in Jamaica, and my dad always ate a lot of fruit and vegetables. To this day, he drinks aloe from the tree that he grows and, eats the skin on a banana.
Really?
And my mom doesn't eat any fruit or vegetable. Like literally, I'm not even exaggerating. The only fruit she will eat is a banana, but without the skin. So, and that she's being forced, you have to cajole her to eat that. But so I did have a very interesting upbringing as it, relates to food. I was served a lot of canned food, a lot of Chef Boyardee, because I had 2 working parents who worked all day, 6 days a week. There wasn't much thought about nutrition or, much else. My dad, though, always said, just eat lots of fruits and vegetables, and wear sunblock. So I did all those things. I wish I'd worn sunblock earlier. I'd have better skin now, but who would have thought in those days that he knew what he was saying,
Right.
I went away to boarding school at 7, where I was also fed a large variety. I was given haggis, which I'm so happy I'm not forced to eat anymore. And, baked beans and sausages, which they call, bangers and mash. And also kidney, liver, like lots of organs that were just really undesirable. I never liked them, but we were made to eat them. But we were also exposed to a lot of vegetables, and they cooked them terribly. Mushy Brussels sprouts, mushy green peas, like awful. So I didn't like meat or vegetables. I don't think I liked food that much, actually.
I can't say I blame you at that point.
I just like the rich tea cookies that they gave us at night. So I used to stuff a huge handful in my pocket. And like,
Smart.
when I out into the world in Jamaica, and I came across the way the Rastas would eat at festivals they held called Nyabingi. And their ital food is mostly vegan, pretty much vegan, and made with very little salt, if any.
Oh.
It's extremely healthy, and I love the taste, which, it's all just very natural. And I started to develop a love for that kind of food, exploring, the island, and just finding they have such a diverse vegetables and fruit. And it just taught me to start loving fruits and veg. And so when I was old enough to cook for myself, that's just what I found I would, cook more of. And then, I guess when I had kids, I had studied nutrition at Columbia. And in the degree, my master's, they never really, talked about meat versus no meat in your diet. It was sort of just like the macronutrients and having a balanced diet, protein, carbs. And they never, just healthy fats. They did address the healthy fat part, but they never really talked about like the saturated fats you find in meats, or, any of that, or dairy. And so when I had kids is when I really started to think more about what I wanted my diet to look like. I didn't feel I had a lot of energy the way I was eating. I didn't feel great. I had 3 kids in 3.5 years. So I was really tired.
I bet.
And, yeah. And that's sort of when I started to switch over to, I was vegetarian for a while, and then I switched over to a vegan diet, and just felt much better and healthier, and just decided that's what I was going to cook at home.
So 3 kids in 3.5 years.
Yeah.
Making healthy food for everyone.
No 3 painful births back to back.
Oh. Oh my gosh. So your cookbook, and we can get into that too, is called Practically Vegan. And it's delicious vegan dinners on a budget. So you had these kids so close together, tired, out of time, but wanting to nourish yourself and your family. How do you come up with, like, take me through that process of figuring out exactly how that would work, where it would be affordable, quick, because you're so busy, and also really nourishing?
So I had no time to short order cook for anyone. And, everyone just had to eat whatever I made, which was good and bad. And I had this nutrition degree, and I really wanted to get my, vision out there in the world. And the best way was really through social media at that time. I had no idea how to use any of those, any apps or anything. And someone said, try Instagram. And so I was like, okay. And so it was, an easy way, being at home still with my kids, to start sharing the food I was preparing. And they had to be easy because I was so busy. So that was just came naturally, and budget friendly because I had a big family to feed, and also quick and practical. So really what I put in my book is what I make in my real life every day, and what I put in my videos in that period and still now is dinner, basically. I cook it for the video, in those days it was a photograph. So I would take the photo, and that would be our dinner. It really me to stick to, because it was so quick and easy and cost efficient.
Yeah. That's awesome. So you had the background where you really understood food So it seemed like it came really naturally to you to know how to pair things together and how to just make it like quick and nourishing but tasty. What about for those of us who don't have that in-depth background, and maybe we're trying to be more inspired in the kitchen? We follow some recipes, but we don't want to spend time every day flipping through a cookbook and finding something. We need an idea of how to do it quick, make it good. What are some tips you can share for people so they can kind of throw stuff together and have it come out okay or really good?
Sure. So that's really the premise of my book, in that I learned that if you just have a handful of, budget-friendly, pantry-friendly ingredients, and you have them on hand. I did go to culinary school for 6 months, which helped a lot. And I think before that, even though, it was just seeing other recipes and following them, and then getting that confidence and trust. And then when you have those ingredients on hand, you can just start to play with them and sort of use the little tips you've picked up, and just don't worry about sticking to any recipe, and start, making things by taste. If it doesn't work out perfectly, nothing really happens. They're still going to be edible, and you just eat it. But, generally with these kind of vegan recipes that I share, you can't go that wrong. So once you learn basics like, okay, these are my vegan proteins, let's say tofu, chickpeas, black beans, lentils, like tempeh, you quickly master, a few easy ways to stick them in a toaster oven, even I have used, and heat them up, get them crispy, and, whip up a quick sauce.
Speaking of that, the pantry staples and things like that, I love that your book, it starts off, it gives us pantry staples, but it's also kind of like a mini culinary course as well. And it just is so cool because I'm looking through it thinking about, if I didn't have any, and I wish I'd had this when I was learning how to cook, honestly. If I didn't have any confidence in the kitchen, this intro to your book, between the pantry staples, and I apologize for flipping through, but I want to make sure that I don't miss anything. Like, you've got a section about tomatoes and vinegars, shelf-stable stuff to make sure that you've got your pantry ready. And then you go into things like tofu and tempeh, and then the picture of you and your girls in the kitchen. I love it. Really like helps us see like we can do this together as a family. But then you even give us how to cut tofu, how to make it into triangles and into squares, and it's just how to soak beans and then cook them. I love it. And that's all before you get to the recipes, which all have really beautiful photos along with them as well. Like, talk about confidence. Like, reading just like a few pages in your cookbook can really instill that in someone, and you can easily go back to it and read it again and make sure you're cutting that tofu in the right the right like proportions and stuff, because that was always a problem I had, was cutting things like an even size so they cook. And I didn't even, now that I've heard people say that and, watched chefs do that, it makes sense to me, but it never like occurred to me. This wasn't a natural thing for me cooking wise to really make sure that things are the right size, or that even different shapes affect not just the texture, but like our visual experience with the food and like the overall kind of meal experience. And I just love that it's all in here, and it will help someone at home be able to make these really great recipes, and also start to understand how to pull it all together, so that when they don't have your cookbook right in front of them, or someone else's cookbook right in front of them, they can just throw something together and it'll be fantastic. But just like, kudos to you. And I want people to hear that so that they'll go, I need a new cookbook, or I'm looking for my first vegan cookbook. And based on what I've seen in your book, like, I want to encourage people to pick it up, because they're going to learn so much more than just how to throw together some pasta and tofu and make it appealing. So just
I have to say, a lot of people who have bought my book will reach out on Instagram and send just the most heartwarming messages about how much it's really helped them on their journey.
Yeah. Yeah. So thank you from all of us who have your book for putting so much effort into it. I want to go back to your background because you have that nutrition background. And when we look at the way that people, and I'll even think about people in my own life, and even me, the few times I've been to a nutritionist, and I've been vegetarian since I went vegetarian in 2001 and then vegan in like 2015. So it's been a long time. And through that time, like my weight's been up and down. And so there were times where I thought, oh, my insurance covers it. I'll go to a nutritionist and see how they can help me get a handle on making sure that I'm living my healthiest life. And each time they don't understand even, or, back then they were like, they're vegetarian, you're going to miss out on this, miss out on that. And even people who I know who aren't vegetarian or vegan will go to a nutritionist. And when they come back and they tell me, because I'm always curious, what they tell you, did they give you a meal plan? Like, what does that look like? And they tell me about lean meats and still just the vegetables not being like a star on the plate.
Yeah.
I guess I just kind of want your take on that approach, and also what kind of questions, if someone is going to a nutritionist and they're getting this kind of guidance, what kind of questions would you encourage someone to ask their nutritionist to help them really be eating the best way that they can?
So I guess it depends what the person's goal is. If they are, happy with their diet, as is in the sense of if they are eating, meat and they want to stay that way, or fish and they want to stay that way, I wouldn't like discourage that per se, because my goal is to sort of slowly introduce more plants and make it like, and it has to come from the person's desire to want to live that way and do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I would sort of meet them where they're at and help them. So if it's someone who is wanting to eat more plant-based or vegetarian, I would, guide them to which are the best protein sources for that. And also which are the heart healthy fats and the omega-3s they can get, and where they're going to find that. Walnuts, incorporating more nuts, more seeds,
Mm-hmm.
and just ways to make beans taste good.
Yeah.
So that they want to eat more of them. Because, and also, with fiber is a big problem in this country, much more than even, protein is really not an issue, honestly, but fiber is. And so I would try and help them to find more ways, if they're not already, to incorporate more fiber, and gradually, because, it is hard if you're not used to it.
Mm-hmm.
But I would talk to them, if they were going to start being vegan, about taking their vitamin B12, and where they can find their omega-3s, and vitamin D also I take, I believe. It's very helpful. So I think it's, meeting the person where they're at and encouraging more plants and fruit and, those alternatives, and teaching them the alternatives, because oftentimes they don't realize how much protein is in lentils, or how much protein is in tofu, and that super firm tofu is like got so much protein if they can find that. So I think it's educating them on those things too, so they can sort of see that, in case, a lot of people may not know that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. One thing I do always when I'm talking to clients or even just friends that are curious about veganism, and they want to know about, well, I'm going to start eating all these vegetables. Like, what if it upsets my stomach? And I'm always like, yeah, get ready for the farting, and you're going to be a little gassy at first, but drink water and it'll be okay. Like you said, your body gets used
Usually
to it.
A good thing, usually.
Yeah. You'll adjust. And
Exactly.
then
It
you'll be
gets less.
amazed by how easy it is to go to the bathroom after you've been fiber filled for a little while.
Yeah, I think people don't realize how little they're going to the bathroom till it
Yeah.
becomes normalized, you know?
Hmm.
Yeah.
It's
And
those
also
things.
another thing is like fluid intake. When you do eat that much fiber, you really do have to drink the water or teas or whatever it is, that is liquids, to
Mhm.
help process that.
Right. Yeah. Got to get a way to move it forward.
Exactly. Otherwise, that's another issue, you know?
Yes. And we certainly don't want people to be discouraged by eating that,
Right.
because they're not realizing that this is your body working well and properly. And it's
Exactly.
just like, you just have to,
There's an adjustment.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you got to get that lubrication going through. And it's so great when you're so full of fiber that way, it's pulling out any gunk that's been stuck. And, when you've been consuming animal products for your whole life, it is
Right.
different, but
And
it's
there's
good.
prebiotics too, the prebiotics in fiber that are feeding the good gut bacteria, so that
Mhm.
actually you'll see your whole microbiome shift for the better.
Yeah. Yeah. Inflammation going down,
Yeah.
sleeping better.
Well, my husband actually, because we're old enough to have colonoscopies, so um, he had his first one, maybe or he had, yeah, maybe 10 years ago, um, or more, maybe more than that. I don't remember, but know about that. So, and then when he went back for the next one, he was a lot more vegan than his first one. He was sort of, I was transitioned already, but he was still back and forth. And by his second, he was more or less transitioned to a vegan diet. And the doctor said, wow, like it's so much cleaner. Are you a vegan now?
Ah. So did you go vegan? So you obviously went vegan before your husband did, but were you vegan before you had kids, or like did you have to help your kids transition as well, or do they kind of eat whatever they're going to eat? Like what's that family dynamic as far as the
So
food
the
goes?
transition started when I had my first kid. It
Okay.
started. And they didn't really know any different. Well, she had eaten um, some meat when she was very little, but not enough to really have formed a huge liking for it or anything.
Hmm.
She also, when she got a little older, watched about, farming of chickens, and she's she's a huge empath. So she had made her own decision that she didn't
Nice.
want to eat animals anyway. So, and then the other two, yeah, it just, no one really made a fuss about it. It's sort of just, still do eat cheese. Two of them at least do eat cheese.
Okay.
So, and that's out of the house, if they go for pizza with friends but they definitely don't miss meat,
Mm.
because they never had it for that long,
Yeah.
if at all.
Yeah. And how about your husband? Was he like fully on board when you were like, this is what I'm doing? Or was that kind of a,
I think he saw me just stay fit and have all this energy, and he was kind of jealous,
yeah.
like, how does she looks good, So I think when, someone sees you living that life, they want that life,
Hmm.
contagious. And he watched Game Changers, and realized, oh, maybe she's not making this up, It's like a whole film on it, Um, but he's health focused, and he also, for me, it's for several reasons I went vegan, but the environment, the climate, the animals, and health. But for him, I think it probably started as more health, and then became other reasons too.
Hmm. Yeah. Whatever gets us there. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I ask that because so many of my listeners have families or relationships where, they might be transitioning, or they're, newly vegan, and then the spouse or the kids are like, nah, I don't want to do this. And so I always like to hear people have kind of some experience with that to hear how they managed or what seemed to work in that family dynamic.
Well, he has, his belief though is if he goes to someone's house and they make him a meal and it has some dairy in it or something, or, he is not going to reject it and hurt the person's feet. He's very, someone put an effort to prepare something for me. I'm not going to be over. He's not, is finding vegan, but if he'll make exceptions if it helps.
Just sticking with kind of the family thing for another minute. When you have little kids, how do you convince them to eat vegetables? I don't have kids, so this isn't for me, but I'm thinking other people need to know.
And that is the $1 million question, right? Right there. So I just, for me, they don't always eat it. They rarely will eat it, maybe the first time you serve it. And I think the data says it's probably around 8 times that a new food needs to be tried by a young child before they accept it. For me, I tried to make the vegetables like as delectable. Eating as a family and showing the example of eating with them, I think encourages them to try new foods and including vegetables. I also incorporated them with foods they already like pasta and tacos. Use some sort of vehicle that I knew they enjoyed and were familiar with to put in the black beans, then some lettuce, and then all that, so I remember there was like a dip I used to make, this Mexican style dip with layers in it, and it would be like a see-through jar. You'd see the beans on the bottom, then the mushed avocado, then the chopped tomatoes, and it was all very exciting, the corn, and so the vegetables were colorful, fun, and you had to like take the big spoon and dip it in, and because it was glass you could see it all sliding out, and so those sort of little techniques, which by the way taste great, so it doesn't matter, it's all going to the same place. With it, and just also never giving everything new at once can be overwhelming for a kid.
Yeah. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. My husband and I, at a point, we thought maybe we would have kids. And I remember friends who already had kids asking, well, like you can't raise your kids vegan because they're not going to eat it. And they would talk about how their kid would only eat white foods for this period of time or only chicken nuggets for that period of time. You can't make them eat stuff they're not going to eat. And I was just like, okay. And then it worked out. We didn't have kids. And so I didn't have to worry about it. But, but I think
they convinced you.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I think a lot of parents,
we're going to have chicken nuggets in this house if we have kids. No, let's not do it. Okay.
Right. Nope. That's where the line is drawn.
Except you did get cats who are not vegan. I know about that.
Oh yeah. Yep. Yeah. Why don't we talk about cats? Because we both live with cats and we both have to feed these cats meat.
Right.
How do you feel about that?
So it sounds like you probably had cats a lot earlier than I did. I've had them for about 8 months, and they're kittens, so they're 8 months old-ish. They were strays, so they probably were a few weeks old before I got them. And I remember when I first got them and opening those they eat all wet food, and opening those cans of meat was just sort of startling because it had been so long. I didn't even remember what it looked like, and I was like frantically cleaning up after because I was scared I was going to get sick by any gravy that fell. I just forgot, no, you're not going to die from the little gravy spills. So it was interesting. It took me a while, and still it still startles me sometimes, but to get used to it. And I remember I made a video because sometimes they will creep into my videos and have an appearance, and but and they were like, I hope you're not making your cat vegan. I hope you're not. And I'm like, no, my cat is not vegan. I understand that they are obligate carnivores, and that's what I have to feed them to keep them alive. So
Yeah. Yeah. I adopted my first cat, Cookie, in 2009. 2009. Yeah, I think so. 2008 or 9. And she passed away in 2020. But so I had her for like 12 years. Yeah, so whatever that math works out to. But she was about 16 when she passed, give or take, because she had been a victim of hoarding and the shelter brought her in. She had lived with 46 other cats. And she was really skittish and shy at first. She was a Maine Coon mix and just this most beautiful, gorgeous, perfect cat. And I'd never lived with a cat before. When we did have animals at home, we had dogs when I was growing up. And so she was my first cat. And we just fell in love. And she was like my very best friend. And I was already vegetarian at that point. And it was startling as well for me, like opening those cans, like, oh, I can't believe I have to feed her this. But knowing that cats, like you said, obligate carnivore is not an option. And, there's no vegan meat on the market for cats. And my guess is even if it came available at this point, it wouldn't be super affordable for people, especially like me living with 3. And I think you have 2, right?
yeah.
So, and so, Cookie was rescued from a shelter, had been, like I said, a victim of hoarding. And then the 3 who live with us now, they all showed up on our back porch. We live in the mountains in New Jersey, and there are farms around. So of course there are barn cats, but there's also the community and is full of people who feel like my cat should be outside. And so I let my cat outside, but not everybody spays or neuters their cats. And then there becomes, this population of outside cats, and they're not all feral. We had one who would come up on our back porch a lot, and we saw her pregnant many times, could not trap her. She was not interested in people outside of she knew people meant food could be available. So she would show up looking for food. But then we had Daisy and Gus came in first. And they just showed up, and Gus was only like a handful of weeks old, so tiny. And he was kind of just following Daisy, who was probably about 8 months, they guess, when she showed up. We were able to trap them pretty quickly, and they became our cats. And then Gemma, she lived on our back porch. She's a tortie. She lived on our back porch for about a year because we couldn't trap her. She would bring squirrels and birds, voles, mice, chipmunks to our back door,
Oh gosh.
in bits a lot of the time. Like, hi, I'm bringing you something. Can you feed me food? Like, give me water. And she slept every night on the chair on our porch. And so we actually got an outdoor house that we could plug in the winter that would keep her warm. She would go inside, I know, and have like a little like mat that heated up when she was in it. So it wasn't warm all the time, but once there was weight on it, it would turn on. And finally, after almost a year, we were finally able to trap her. And at first, she was not happy. And she was ear tipped. So we knew she'd already been spayed. We knew she'd had an encounter with humans that she probably didn't love. And so we were a little nervous trapping her again. She freaked out, but we got her scanned, no microchip. Well, she had a microchip, but it wasn't registered to anybody. And so we brought her in, and I've got to tell you, she does not miss being outside at all. She has claimed my husband. Apparently, torties have a favorite, and he is hers. And we work from home now, so he's always like in the living room, and she just gets in his lap, and all day she spends with him. And it's just really wonderful in this beautiful relationship. And Daisy and Gus are sweet and snuggly too, but not the way Gemma is. And so like as much as it pains me to have to feed them, they also only eat wet food. Pains me to feed them this food twice a day because I know where it's coming from and I know the suffering that goes into getting that food. It's like we're weighing like humans have irresponsibly created all these cats, and we've made it so they rely on us. So we took in 3, and I don't know, it still doesn't, for me, it still hurts, and it doesn't justify what the animals who
Yeah.
become the cat's food have to go
Yeah.
through. But then I feel like, on the other hand, we're helping reduce the cats who are outside. We're not buying cats, so people aren't motivated by our actions to breed more cats. And
Right.
so it's tough, right?
The dilemma.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's kind of like what being vegan really is all about, isn't it? Like, we're doing the best we can in this non-vegan world, and sometimes we have to make really tough choices. But,
Yeah.
we know what we know, and we're trying not to contribute to all that cruelty with every action, you know? Despite all that, I still feel like being vegan is like the greatest thing I've ever done with my life.
I think I feel honored that I have been able to grow an audience in an easy way, like to show people how easy it can be. I feel
Mhm.
honored that I do that for my job,
Yeah, it's so
And
special.
yeah, and the people who have reached out to me are just very nice. Like, it's always lovely to hear from my followers that they are being helped.
Mhm. Like, it's great because I've had people say that to me too, where they thank me for helping them see things differently, and that feels so good, and I'm like, "Yay," like, I helped be part of that. And that's so, like, nice for me, and affirming, and keeps me going, but also, like, yay for the changes in the world they're making because
Yeah,
of
exactly.
this. And that just really it just fills my heart so much. And
It's funny because now I'm thinking my cats do have a favorite. They both each, and luckily one favors my husband and one favors me, because I'd be so heartbroken if they both favored him. Because last night we like before we go to bed, they always sit with us, and one sits in his, like, near him, and the other one sits right, between my legs, right next to me, by my feet. And yesterday they look very similar, they're sisters, right?
Mhm.
And yesterday he switched them, put his by me and Coco by him, and they looked at each other and they looked really pissed off.
Like, what is going on here?
Yeah, and then they got up and switched.
Their personalities too are just
Yeah.
incredible, right? And yeah, I feel the same way because, like, like I said, Gemma is really like my husband's. She's fine with me because, I'm typically the one who feeds them. And so she's like, you're good for this stuff. But, like, I'm
Yeah.
snuggling with dad. But Daisy, she and I seem to have a really sweet connection. And then Gus is everybody's friend. So he's like, I love everyone, everybody loves me, I'm the best. But Daisy too, like, when I'm doing things like, so I have the whole, vegan aspect of Did You Bring the Hummus? But then I also do things like healing circles, which involve Reiki and crystal healing. And I've got this whole other, like, woo side to me. And she loves it. When I pull out the crystals and I'm doing Reiki, she will come into the room. She'll sit right by my feet, or she sits near the singing bowls, and she is so into it. And
Oh,
I know, I feel like I have, like, a little buddy, like, practicing these things with me.
yeah. I think, they're very sensitive to sound, cats,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Um, so they probably love the sound of the bowls. And like, my apartment's pretty silent. So sometimes I will open a window just so they can hear the hustle and bustle of New York City.
Mhm.
And they're like just fascinated, they
I
can't really see
bet.
exactly where it's coming from, but I feel like, oh, they need some sound. Like, this is boring for them. So, I do take them for walks in a stroller. to like give them some exposure, because I do feel they just kind of get bored, and they get to go on see the view and see the birds outside, and I take them to my grocery store. They go all over, these cats.
That is awesome. If I could take my cats into the grocery store with me, I would love that.
Yeah, I think when they first saw the cats in the grocery store, they're kind of like, do we allow this? Is this okay? But they're in a stroller, full screen. They can't get out. So I don't seem to get bothered, about it.
Yeah. I think in New York City too, it feels like that's an easier place to get to do things like that, right? So I think you're probably in good company, and who knows how many people with strollers with their cats you'll see as you keep doing it. Like, you're going to
I
inspire
know, I'm
others.
waiting. These little kids will look and say, Daddy, can we do that? Can we get this? And it's actually, where I live, there's a lot of tourists. And so some days when I take them for a walk, I'll hear the word cat in all different languages, because people are so stunned that there's cats. And then they're like, unsha, dusha, and then when they see that, when they too, they're even more surprised. It's kind of fun. I always wish I could video it. It's funny.
You're spreading a lot of joy every time you leave the house with your cats in the stroller.
Oh, that's a nice way to look at it.
Yeah.
And a lot of kids begging their parents for cat strollers too.
Yep. Well, that's their problem. You're just bringing the joy and the opportunity to others.
So I'm hoping to see some more,
Yeah. Who knows? You start like a little club, cat moms and their cat strollers.
Yeah, it's true. Actually, it's funny. The other day, I did see two, and I thought they were like calling out to my cats. And then when I looked closely, I realized they were talking to their cats. So I was like, yes, it started.
Yep. It's be an easy way to make friends.
Yeah. And they were sisters too, the little cats.
Oh. Oh, I love it. Yeah, so I think and on your website, so I've talked so much about your cookbook, but your website is full of recipes too. So sorry to backtrack there, but people will appreciate it.
Yes, my Instagram at Cooking for Peanuts, I post the videos of the recipes, the reels, and I also write the recipes there. But then I have full recipes all on my website for each video, and these recipes are all completely different to what's in the cookbook, but they're all in the same vein, that they are easy, budget friendly, taste great, delicious, and quick. Some are quick in the cookbook. I wouldn't say every recipe is quick, but yeah, so they are available on my website, cookingforpeanuts.com, where they can be printed. There's videos there too on most of them on how to make it, and step-by-step instructions.
Yeah, that's awesome. I spent a little time on there, and I love the different categories. I went right to sandwiches. I'm a sandwich girl. I love, love, love bread, and I want to put lots of good stuff on bread. So I went there, and I saved the caramelized tofu and onion sandwich. So that'll be the first sandwich recipe I try from your website.
I think you're gonna love that one. That one has been a big hit for a long time.
So fantastic.
Yeah. I think that you'll definitely like that one.
Awesome. Well, I'll be sure to post about it and share it, and some photos after I make it.
I definitely want to see them. Make sure you tag them.
I will, for sure. Nisha, this has been awesome. I've really enjoyed our conversation. I feel like the listeners are going to learn so much from listening to you. But I've got one more question for you. Got to close Did You Bring the Hummus with a question about hummus. So tell me, please, about your favorite way to eat hummus or your favorite recipe. Give all the good stuff.
So I just filmed a hummus recipe today.
Yay!
And I'm going to edit the video. It will come to my Instagram soon. But it was a caramelized onion. And I did use hummus with pasta water, which is the perfect thickener, because of the starch in the water and the creaminess of the hummus. And I also did a little neat trick of how to caramelize the onions super quickly because I do not have 30 minutes to wait for that. So that is in there too. And it turned out so good. And after this podcast, I am going to enjoy that for dinner.
Oh, wonderful. I can't wait.
I think that's my new favorite hummus recipe.
Yeah, I think it's going to be mine too.
We'll be on the blog soon. I'll definitely let you know.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I've really appreciated this time with you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I've really liked being here, and it's great getting to know you.
Awesome. Yeah, same here. Welcome back. Are you as in love with Nisha as I am? One of the things I hear a lot about is how to get kids to eat veggies. So I'll highlight Nisha's guidance here before closing us out. Keep introducing a new food. Data shows it can take up to 8 times of trying a food before we know how we really feel about it. Eat as a family and model the example you want your kids to follow. For example, if they see how much you enjoy broccoli, they'll be more likely to taste it. Make it interesting and fun. Remember that dip Nisha mentioned in the glass jar? That's the ticket. To connect with Nisha, visit her website, cookingforpeanuts.com, and follow her on Instagram and TikTok at cookingforpeanuts. You'll also find this link, as well as links to anything mentioned in the episode, and the link to her cookbook in the show notes, as always. I hope you found this episode helpful and inspiring. Please subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. And if you're loving it, please give Did You Bring the Hummus a 5-star rating and leave a review. It's an easy way to keep supporting the show. Be sure to share these episodes with your friends. If you're finding something good here, they will too. Follow me on Facebook and Instagram at Did You Bring the Hummus, and visit my website, didyouBringTheHummus.com, for more information about me, updates on what I'm working on, new podcast episodes, and all things vegan. Finally, I would love to hear from you. What do you need help with? Is there a topic you want to hear covered on a future episode? Is there a guest you want me to reach out to? Are you a vegan who would love to be a guest on this podcast? DM me on Instagram or send me an email at didyouBringTheHummus@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.